Most men don't realize the moment they become invisible. It doesn't happen when the hair turns gray. It doesn't happen when the body slows down. It happens the moment people stop feeling your presence. And the terrifying part? Most men over 50 think exhaustion is normal. They think poor sleep is age. They think losing desire, losing energy, losing sharpness is just life punishing them slowly. But powerful men know something dangerous. Weakness is rarely natural. Usually it is engineered. A tired man is easier to control. A restless man is emotionally unstable. A man who cannot sleep deeply becomes impulsive, insecure, and easier to manipulate without ever noticing it. And tonight, you're going to understand why one missing vitamin silently destroys more men after 50 than betrayal, stress, or even age itself. Stay until the end. Because the final truth is the one most men are psychologically incapable of accepting. And once you see it, you will never look at aging the same way again. Subscribe, like the video, and listen carefully. Because this conversation was never meant for weak men. There's a brutal reality nobody says openly. Society does not respect tired men. People pretend they care about kindness. They pretend they value honesty. But human nature has always worshipped one thing above all else: vitality, energy, presence, power. The man who walks into a room with calm authority changes the emotional temperature instantly. People feel him before he speaks, but the exhausted man, he becomes background noise. And this is where the trap begins for men over 50. Sleep starts breaking apart. The body becomes slower. The mind becomes foggy. Desire weakens. Confidence drops quietly. And the worst part is, nobody warns you when it starts happening, because weakness never arrives dramatically. It arrives silently. One restless night. One tired morning. One forgotten thought. One avoided mirror. One loss of hunger. Then suddenly, the man who once commanded attention starts negotiating for it, and people notice. Women notice. Friends notice. Even younger men sense it instinctively. Human beings are predators of emotional weakness. Always have been. People don't consciously say, "This man has lost his edge." They simply stop responding to him the same way. Less respect. Less attraction. Less attention. That is how power disappears in real life. Not through violence, through energy. But here's what makes this darker. Most men blame age, when the real enemy is hidden in plain sight. Because there is one vitamin tied directly to sleep quality, hormonal balance, recovery, emotional stability, focus, and male vitality that millions ignore until their bodies begin collapsing quietly from the inside. Vitamin D, simple, common, almost laughably ignored, which is exactly why it's dangerous. The most powerful things are often the least dramatic, you see. Modern life was never designed for masculine vitality. Men live indoors, work under artificial light, sleep badly, eat emotionally, carry silent stress, suppress anger, suppress fear, suppress loneliness, and eventually the body begins sending warnings. No energy, poor sleep, lower testosterone, brain fog, mood swings, weak recovery, loss of drive. Most men respond the same way. They consume more caffeine, more distractions, more noise. Because facing the truth is terrifying. A man can survive hardship, but losing his edge, that destroys him psychologically, especially after 50. Because men understand something they rarely admit aloud. Respect is conditional. The world celebrates powerful men. It tolerates weak ones. And when a man starts losing vitality, he begins losing something even more important. His internal certainty, that dangerous calm, that grounded presence, that feeling that he can handle pressure without collapsing emotionally. Deep sleep is not just rest. It is psychological armor. Without it, emotional control disappears slowly, and once emotional control disappears, manipulation becomes easy. Notice how exhausted men react faster, anger quicker, beg for attention more, need validation more desperately. Why? Because fatigue weakens discipline, and discipline is power. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. The exhausted mind cannot govern itself, and the man who cannot govern himself will always be governed by others. That is why powerful people protect their energy obsessively, not because they fear aging, because they understand human nature. People test weakness constantly. Silence changes when you enter a room. Respect shifts subtly. Conversations become different. Humans are always measuring status emotionally. Always. And most men over 50 never realize how deeply sleep affects status perception. A well-rested man speaks slower, moves calmer, looks more dangerous without trying. He does not chase attention because his nervous system is not starving for emotional survival. That changes everything, but here's where it becomes uncomfortable. Many men secretly destroy themselves because they no longer believe they deserve power. Listen carefully. After enough disappointments, betrayal, rejection, financial stress, loneliness, some men unconsciously surrender. They stop fighting for vitality. They accept exhaustion like a prison sentence, and society rewards that surrender. You're getting older. That's normal. Just accept it. No, decay becomes normal. When people stop resisting it, that is the real manipulation. The dangerous truth is this: most systems benefit when men are tired. A tired man questions less, competes less, resists less, leads less. But a man who sleeps deeply becomes psychologically harder to control, because clarity returns, and clarity is terrifying. Suddenly he notices fake loyalty. He notices manipulation. He notices who only respected him when he was useful. That awakening changes a man permanently, especially after 50, because by then, most men have already seen enough betrayal to understand one brutal law of life. People rarely love you unconditionally. They love access, utility, status, security, emotional comfort. And the moment a man loses his strength, many relationships reveal their true nature. That realization crushes weak men, but it sharpens dangerous ones. This is why restoring energy matters far beyond the body. It changes psychology. The man who sleeps deeply thinks differently, speaks differently, walks differently. He stops seeking approval. And the moment a man stops needing approval, people become nervous around him, because emotionally independent men are difficult to manipulate. Look closely at powerful men, not loud men, not arrogant men, powerful men. They conserve energy carefully, protect sleep obsessively, control emotion strategically, because they understand something most people learn too late. Human beings feed on emotional reactions. The moment you become emotionally predictable, you become weak. That is why poor sleep destroys more than health. It destroys emotional discipline. And once emotional discipline collapses, men become impulsive. Impulsive men lose leverage, lose attraction, lose authority, slowly, quietly, like a kingdom rotting from the inside. Now here's the twist nobody expects. The real danger is not physical aging, it is psychological surrender disguised as aging. There are men at 60 more respected than men at 30. Why? Presence. Controlled energy, calm confidence, emotional restraint, strategic silence. And those traits become impossible when the body is constantly exhausted, which brings us back to the vitamin nobody takes seriously. Vitamin D affects testosterone production, sleep regulation, mood stability, immunity, and recovery. When levels collapse, men often feel weaker without understanding why. And ignorance is expensive. Because human beings judge outcomes, not explanations. Nobody asks why you lost your edge, they only notice that you did. Cold truth: the world is not gentle with declining men, especially invisible men. That's why some men over 50 suddenly become obsessed with restoring vitality, not out of vanity, out of survival. Because they understand the hidden war nobody discusses openly. The battle to remain psychologically respected. And respect is strange. People say it's earned through kindness. False kindness without strength becomes exploitation. People respect boundaries, standards, emotional control. They respect the man who does not emotionally collapse under pressure. That stability feels rare today, almost intimidating, and deep sleep creates that stability. A man who rests deeply becomes harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, harder to emotionally bait. His reactions slow down, and slow reactions are dangerous because calm men think strategically while emotional people expose themselves. That is power, not noise, not aggression, control. But here is the final truth. Most men avoid because it cuts too deeply. Many men are not actually tired from age. They are tired from carrying years of unspoken disappointment, failed loyalty, silent rejection, pressure, isolation. The constant feeling that nobody truly understands the burden men carry quietly, so they stop caring for themselves. They abandon discipline slowly, and the body follows the mind into collapse. That is why restoring sleep matters. Psychologically, it is not just recovery, it is rebellion, a declaration that your story is not finished. Yet because once a man regains energy, strange things happen. His posture changes, his voice changes, his standards rise. His tolerance for disrespect disappears, and suddenly the same world that ignored him begins reacting differently. Not because the world changed, because he did. Never forget this. Human beings respond to emotional presence more than words. People feel strength long before they understand it intellectually. That's why some men command respect in silence while others beg for it endlessly. And the difference often begins with something deceptively simple. Energy, vitality, sleep, the restoration of a nervous system that modern life slowly destroyed. Most men wait until collapse before paying attention. That is the mistake. Powerful men notice decline early. They protect their mind before the world notices. Weakness, because once society senses desperation, respect disappears fast, and rebuilding lost respect is far harder than protecting it in the first place. So tonight, ask yourself something uncomfortable. Are you truly aging? Or have you simply been drained for so long that weakness started feeling normal? Because the answer to that question changes everything. And once a man realizes his exhaustion was never destiny, only neglect, he becomes dangerous again, quietly dangerous, the kind of man who no longer seeks validation, no longer fears loneliness, no longer begs for attention. A man who understands human nature clearly enough to stop being controlled by it. That man moves differently, speaks less, observes more, sleeps deeply, acts strategically, and people feel it instantly, because true power is never loud. It is calm, cold, controlled, and rare. With that said, thanks for watching, and until next time.